Welcome to the Resistance.
Hey Xers, and welcome back to Gen X Resistance. I'm your host, Paul Stevens, and I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to listen to this podcast. I believe that there is a specific trait that you're going to find in every Gen Xer, a characteristic that is common and runs deep in all of us. And that characteristic, that trait, resilience, the ability to face adversity, take the hit, and keep on going, even when life throws its worst at us. So grab your caffeine of choice, get comfy, and let's take a little journey through time. Now, we're not just going to talk about how our scars, both the visible ones and the ones you can't see, have toughened us up, which is funny because I used to have a football coach who'd say, "Keep running, Stevens. You'll pass out before you die." I did want to test his theory. But we're also going to take a look at how they've shaped the world that we live in today, and a world that sometimes it feels just as bruised as we are. You know, scars are a lot like time capsules. They hold memories of what we've been through. I don't know if you remember that Goo Goo Dolls song, Name. There's a line that goes, "Scars are souvenirs you never lose. Every scar has a story." If you take me, for example, I've been through 3, now I guess make that 4 surgeries. I've had my spleen removed, my hernia repaired, and then unrepaired, and that's a long story. And just had minor surgery a few days ago that requires some painful dressing changes twice a day. Shout out to my wife, who has been with me for roughly 30 years. She's seen me through all of them and has been one hell of a nurse. Each one of those surgeries has left a pretty significant scar. I also worked at a job in my early 20s that left me with burn scars, kind of as a reminder. Let's just say that my body tells its own story of its own survival. Then there's the scar on my knee, a childhood souvenir from chasing my older brother in 1979. Did I get stitches? Nope. Just a splash of peroxide and a Band-Aid from Grandma. Scars are the bookmarks in the crazy chapters of our lives. But scars aren't just physical. Some of the deepest marks are the ones no one can see. In 1995, I lost my mom to cancer. And strangely enough, that's actually the same year that the song Name hit the airwaves. But that loss, it left a scar that still aches even after 30 years. Emotional scars don't fade like the ones on our skin, but they're also proof of our strength. They're tattoos of the struggles that we've survived, and they remind us just how resilient we really are. Now, many of us carry emotional scars from our childhood. We were the latchkey kids, the ones who learned to fend for ourselves when both parents were working. We grew up with less supervision, more responsibility, which toughened us up quite a bit. But it also meant we had to deal with a lot of things on our own, often bottling up emotions instead of processing them in a healthy way. And that sometimes left its own mark on us. But it's not just about personal resilience. As Gen Xers, we've also been shaped by the world around us, our collective experiences. The moments that hit all of us have left their own marks, their own scars. They haven't just made us tougher, they've shaped the way that we navigate the world, a world that still bears the echo of the same challenges that we faced when we were growing up. So let's take a quick walk through some of the defining moments that left marks not just on us individually, but our entire generation. These are just a few big moments that shaped our worldview and left scars on our collective identity. The Challenger disaster in 1986. I was sitting in the school library in the 6th grade. They rolled the TV out on the big cart, and if you're Gen X, you know exactly what that looked like. Watching the launch live, believing in the dream of space exploration. It was an exciting day. Teacher Krista McCullough was making history as the first civilian selected to go into space. Schools across the country had tuned in to witness history in the making. And then, in an instant, tragedy. Just 73 seconds after liftoff, the Space Shuttle Challenger broke apart, killing all 7 crew members on board. The silence that followed in the classrooms across the nation was deafening. Teachers scrambled to make sense of what just happened, some turning off the TVs, others letting the broadcast play as stunned students watched. It was one of those moments that made us realize that life doesn't always go as planned. It was a collective loss of innocence, a harsh introduction to the unpredictability of the world. The Cold War and the nuclear threat. We grew up with the looming fear of nuclear war. The 1983 made-for-TV movie The Day After, that wasn't just a movie, it was a collective nightmare. We learned early on that the world could change in an instant, and we had to be ready for it. And if it wasn't for Rocky IV, bringing the U.S. and the USSR together, who knows what the world would look like today?
What I was trying to say is that if I can change,
Я думаю, что каждый тоже изменился
and
сегодня.
you can change,
Вы можете измениться.
everybody can change.
Thanks, Rocky. 9/11 and the world after. We weren't kids anymore when the towers fell, but that day left an imprint on all of us. It changed the way that we saw the world, the way that we traveled, the way that we understood safety. Nearly 3,000 people lost their life that day, making it the deadliest terror attack in history. In the aftermath, airport security was transformed overnight with the creation of the TSA, the implementation of full body scanners, the restriction on liquids. The U.S. launched the War on Terror, leading to conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq that lasted for decades. Surveillance expanded, privacy rights were debated, and phrases like, "If you see something, say something," became a part of our daily life. We learned that resilience means adapting even when everything else feels uncertain. We lived through multiple recessions, the dot-com bubble of the early 2000s. Then came the Great Recession of 2008, just when many of us were hitting our stride in our careers. And now, we're still dealing with economic uncertainty, but we keep pushing forward, adapting, finding new ways to survive and thrive. The rise of technology. We watched the world shift from rotary phones to smartphones, from cassette tapes to streaming. We had to learn new tech constantly, adapt to a job market that demands ever-evolving skills, and somehow try and keep up. And yet we did. We became the bridge between analog and digital, the generation that can function in both worlds. Now here we are, decades later, and our resilience is still being tested. We're raising families, working jobs that demand more and more, and dealing with a world that sometimes feels like it's on fire, literally and figuratively. We're navigating a workplace that values youth and digital natives over experience. We're raising kids in a world completely different from the one that we grew up in. We're taking care of aging parents while still trying to figure out our own futures. And through it all, we just keep going, because that's what we do. But resilience doesn't mean that we don't feel the weight of it all. Yeah, we do. Some days it's exhausting. Some days it feels like it's just too much. But we're still here. We've been through a lot and we're still standing. The same resilience that got us through childhood without seatbelts, through a world that didn't hand out participation trophies, and through some of life's hardest moments, it's still in us. Resilience isn't just about enduring. It's about learning, adapting, and growing. It's about knowing when to push through and when to give ourselves a break. So how do we keep moving forward? Well, 1, acknowledge the scars. Our scars, physical, emotional, and collective, they're all part of us. And instead of hiding them, wear them like a badge. They show where we've been and what we've survived. 2, find your crew. We were raised to be independent, but that doesn't mean that we have to do everything alone. Find the people who get it, who get you, who understand what it means to be Gen X, and lean on them when you need to. 3, adapt and overcome. We have been adapting our whole lives. We've learned how to use technology, how to navigate economic downturns, how to raise kids in an ever-changing world. We can keep adapting. And 4, take care of yourself. We grew up at a time when self-care wasn't a thing. Maybe it should have been. Whether it's exercising, meditating, or just taking some time to do something you love. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. So, fellow Xers, let's own our scars. Let's embrace them as proof that we've lived, we've fought, and we've endured. Because if there's one thing we know how to do, it's survive. All right, thanks for tuning in to Gen X Resistance. If you want to get a hold of me, you can email me at genxresistance@gmail.com or leave a message by clicking the link in the show notes. If this message resonated with you, share it with a fellow Xer who needs a reminder of just how tough they really, really are. And as always, stay strong, keep resisting, and stay rad, my friends. Catch you next time.